Last week I released a video where I talked about my not so affordable watch collection. This week we're talking about the affordable watches in my collection. I have a lot of watches to go through. I actually think I need to make a part 2 of this video, so I may end up doing that. I've tried to consolidate this down a little bit so we can get through a lot of watches, and I do have a lot of watches to go through. Now, one caveat here, some of these may not be considered all that affordable. However, most of these are considered affordable or somewhat affordable considering what you're getting for the price. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into my affordable watch collection. So this is a video that's a lot of fun to make, but there is a lot to go through. So I have a lot of affordable watches. I made a whole video about my Timex collection earlier in the year. So I'm just gonna show you my most worn Timex and probably my most worn affordable watch. I say this is affordable, this is around $500. I know some people will argue with my definition of affordable, especially for some of the other watches on this list, but this is an amazing watch for $500. Titanium GMT. It looks really good. I put it on the James brand bracelet, which I think works really well. So this is one of the more worn affordable watches, and I'm spending a little extra time on this watch. I'm going to try and fly through the watches so we could see a lot of watches in rapid fire. So there are a lot of watches to go through, so let's start right away. Baltic Prismic. This is the stone dial limited editions that they came out with last year. I believe it was last year, and they sold out of these very quickly. This is the New York edition with a jade dial, small seconds, hand wound movement. They've come out with some new versions of these stone dials. They are non-limited editions. I really love these watches. I think they're really cool. The bracelet is probably my favorite part, but you do have that really nice ETA 7001 in the back. I think they've changed that to a Le Joux Perret movement now. But all in all, these are very jewelry-like watches, very Piaget-like, and I really like them. If you love the watches that I talk about here on my channel, you're really going to love the website that I'm about to tell you about. It's called Wristrebels. Wristrebels is a website that has all of those small micro brands and independent brands that are really hard to find all in one place. Brands like Formex, Awake, Martin Designs, and Squale, and many other brands you won't find anywhere else. Definitely check out Wristrebels at wristrebels.com. Also check out their Instagram at Wristrebels, and if you end up buying something, tell them that WatchChris sent you. So I know that a lot of people will argue that this is not an affordable watch, but for what you are getting here, this I think is an affordable watch. You're getting a grade 5 or grade 23 titanium case, which is printed in a 3D printer, but then hand finished by a goldsmith, a very small team of people. This is Kaiser Designs, and this is just a really cool skeletonized case. It gets a Sellita SW200. Everything here is made in Germany except for that movement. So the hands, the dial, which takes like 200 operations to make. Sapphire, I believe, is made in Switzerland, so I lied. There is one other thing that's made outside of Germany. But besides that, they have tried to source and make everything in Germany. So when you have a watch that says it's German made, usually it's not as German made as you think. This one is actually German made. Super weird watch, and definitely not affordable. If you bought this at retail, this was around $7,000. I paid around $600 for this watch. I will make a video about this watch because I think it's just really cool. This is a Waltham, designed after a vintage Waltham clock that was in a cockpit for a specific World War II fighter jet. I don't remember all the details off the top of my head, but this is a GMT and it's made out of grade 5 titanium. You have ceramic. It gets a really high-end movement inside by Concepto. Very cool watch for a very, very good price on the secondary market. And you can see there's some colors there, some really interesting details. I love it. And like I said, 600 bucks. Vulcain Cricket. Of course, I think people in the comments again will say this is not an affordable watch because it's over $5,000. It definitely is not an affordable watch. But again, when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, this is a very historic watch that gets a lot of history, really well made, in-house movement. You get there, I believe it's called the V10 hand-wound movement in the back that you get to see through the sapphire crystal. It's an alarm watch that is Swiss made. It was worn by presidents, a very historic watch that is really good looking, that is around $5,000. There aren't many other brands that offer that much for $5,000, but maybe that's just me. I have a number of Vulcain in my collection. Here's a Vulcain diver. This is probably, I think, my most worn Vulcain. This is the Nautic Skin Diver. Very straightforward watch, very straightforward design, but it's the bracelet that gets me on this watch. These solid links. The bracelet has some really great details. The on-the-fly micro adjust is really top-notch. Everything about it looks kind of vintage, but feels ultra modern in hand. It's heavy. It's a really good looking watch in my opinion as well. It's a 200-meter dive watch. It's meant to be a skin diver. You get a ceramic bezel, sapphire crystal, all that good stuff. It's powered by an Eterna movement. So I think Vulcain know what they are doing, and they keep on coming out with reissues of amazing watches from their history. I have their chronograph as well. I'll throw up a picture of that or some video. I love the Vulcain Nautic Skin Diver chronograph, and I have a few of their dress watches and another chronograph of theirs, but these are basically the two highlights for me in my Vulcain collection. I have about 6 or 7. I love them. Islander. This is a pretty affordable watch. I think these are around $300 or under $300. You're getting a Miyota 8 series movement inside. There's a lot of little details that I really like about this watch. I like the colors of this watch and the way that Mark from Long Island Watches decided to do the date. So he put the date at the 6 o'clock position, but you're getting a day and date. And I like it. I think it's a really good looking watch. The only thing I said that this watch is missing is on the fly micro adjust, but I think he's adding that to a lot more of his watches now. And for the price, really just a nice watch. Another watch that was not affordable when it first came out, but I was able to get this watch for around $600 is what I paid for it. I bought it on a Mont Blanc sale. So they did these in New York City for a very long time, but they haven't done them in a while, but that's what I paid for this watch. So I do consider this an affordable watch. It is a Mont Blanc Minerva-inspired GMT with a beautiful salmon dial, lots of details on this watch. It is gorgeous, and it's powered by a Sellita movement, so a reliable movement, a good-looking watch. And these on the secondary market don't sell for incredible prices. I think they sell for around $1,000, which is a little bit less than what they MSRP'd for. I highly recommend them because they're just really good looking and really nicely made watches. I have a few Zelos in my collection. This is probably the highlight of all the Zelos that I own, so I do have a few others, but this is the Sky Raider with the Marvin 700. It's thin. It's very customized because you're getting a vintage movement that has been highly customized by Zelos. You get a box sapphire crystal, a titanium case with a beautiful titanium bracelet on the fly micro adjust, see-through case back, screwed-in crown. Oh, actually, this does not get a screwed-in crown because this is a hand-wound movement. But with all that being said, it is just a very unique-looking watch with a very unique movement that technically is not in-house, but for the price, for around $1,500 is what these originally sold for. There isn't another manufacturer out there that is offering something so cool, something so interesting for such a good price. Well, I could hear it in the comments. A lot of people will not like these watches. These are the Swatch Blancpain collaborations. I have a number of them. So this is probably one of my favorite ones. It's the white, and I put it on a green strap. It's a sailcloth strap. It looks fantastic on this strap. I think you need to change the straps on these immediately. They are around $450, somewhere in that range. Hey, I mean, they look like a 50 Fathoms, and that's kind of the whole point of these watches. Will they last a lifetime? No. Do I wear it very often? No. So these will last me a lifetime because I won't wear them. But that is just me. If you're wearing this on a daily basis, it's definitely not going to last, but I think it's a cool watch and definitely collectible. I think you want to have more than one because I don't know, maybe just because I'm crazy, but I think they're really cool. Some people call this the Jay Leno. I don't think this specific one is the one that Jay Leno owns, although maybe he bought a new one, a new used one. I don't know. This one's in really bad condition. This is the SLQ00. I don't remember if this is the 07 or 09. I can never remember the number on this, but it's essentially a very high-end kinetic chronograph that was made by Seiko. It gets a 9T inside, so it is a Grand Seiko level movement inside this watch. It was the highest grade kinetic movement that they ever made. It's a really good looking watch. I think it's kind of funky looking, very, I don't know, it's not steampunk, but it's almost like, I've always said that if MB&F made a standard chronograph, this is kind of how it would look. We have two watches here. Both of them are Chronofix. This is the Chronofix Diver, the Gotham Watch Club collaboration that I did with Gotham Watch Club this year. Well, with Chronofix, I am Gotham Watch Club. And then there is the Chronofix Asterisk collaboration that they did with Seiko. So both of these watches are very similar. Actually, they're almost identical except for the bezels and the dials. Other than that, the cases are very similar. Well, the crowns are pretty different. The movements are different because the movement inside this watch is an NH35. Inside this is a Sellita SW200. So actually, they're pretty different. And then this bracelet, which can fit on this watch, is a bracelet that was especially made for this watch. So this is a little bit more expensive than this. This was like 380 bucks. This is around 600 and something, I think. Both really cool watches, and I love Chronofix. I love the brand. They're coming out with some really awesome Type 20s. I hope they keep going in the direction that they're going. They're owned by one of my favorite groups, the guys who own Vulcain, Nivada Grenchen. So I think they're doing a really good job, and I love these watches. So I mentioned Nivada Grenchen. Here are two of my favorite watches from the brand. Both of them are vintage reissues of watches that existed in their catalog. This is the, well, they changed the name on this watch. It was called the Chronosport for a while, and they've changed the name. I don't remember what they changed it. I think it's Chronochron or something along those lines. Singer dial. It is beautiful. And I love the integration of the bracelet and the case. And then you have their GMT. This was their Antarctic GMT, in a very true to form reissue of their original Antarctic GMT. So cool. And I think really good looking watches. Both of them get Swiss movements. I believe this is a Soprod because this is a GMT. I think it's like the C125 or something like that. And then this gets a Valjoux movement inside. So, you know, the fact that it's a Valjoux movement means something these days because Valjoux is technically more expensive than Sellita, so they went the extra mile with this watch. I think it's a fantastic watch, and not incredibly expensive either. I think these are around $2,000. These are around $1,500, something like that. Great watches. So I have a few Christopher Ward. I have the Belcanto Blue. That is the original blue right here. A watch that I immediately wanted to purchase when I saw it in renderings, and I was blown away. Then the Loco, another watch that I immediately wanted to purchase because it's just a really good looking watch. That both of these watches, all three of these watches, are watches that are sort of look a lot more expensive than they are. And then of course the 12X. I think the 12X is probably my favorite out of the bunch. It gets the in-house SH21, so does this, although they changed the name to the CW001. It's skeletonized. It gets a solid block of loom. So the chaptering or the minutes track essentially is a solid block of loom. It's in titanium. You get on-the-fly micro adjust. I think it's just really just a good looking watch. It's kind of the best of both worlds here. And it's automatic. So out of the three, it's definitely my favorite, but I have a lot of Christopher Wards in my collection. Well, actually, I don't. I have one more besides these three, I believe. But that is it. I will add more Christopher Ward to my collection. I want to get a diver. I don't have a diver from them. And I really like their dive watches. So soon I will own one of their divers, hopefully. So yes, I know, not entirely affordable. I know the Christopher Ward's not entirely affordable. But Again, you're getting a lot for your money with the watches that I'm showing you here. They are around $5,000 and below, so that's kind of the theme here. Either they are available for $5,000 and below, or they retail at around $5,000 and below. So this is the Perrelet Lab GMT. It gets a peripheral rotor, and you can actually see the rotor on the front rather than the back. The back, it looks like a regular hand-wound movement. It's just a really cool watch. I'm going to be doing a full video about this one. I featured the green version here on my channel. They came out with this version, the salmon dial on a bracelet, and I love it. I think it is so cool. The bracelet on here is very nice, and it looks really good with this case. It kind of balances the case a little bit better than the bracelet, in my opinion, and that's the reason why I had to have it on the bracelet. Wicked watches. This is the Pearl Diver. I have the Pearl Diver 2 with the Damascus titanium case. I have a couple of them, so I'm just showing you this one though because it's going to take a long time to go through all these watches. I still have a lot of watches to go through. Please hang in with me. Hang in there for all of these watches. It is definitely worth it because I have some really cool watches to show you guys. And this is a really cool watch as well. This was their Swiss version, so this gets a Sellita SW200, solid blocks of lume, domed sapphire crystal, domed ceramic bezel that is filled with lume as well. This one is in bronze, which looks really good against that black mother of pearl dial. Very cool watch. I love what they do over at Wicked, especially with lume. Their watches are fantastic, and I have a collaboration with them that I'm working on. I've shown that in another video as well. There's a video where all three of those watches are featured. I will put a link up above. Another brand that I love, and another brand that I own a few watches from. This is the Dr. Pepper though, and there are a few other watches that I have from Jack Mason in my collection, but this is probably my favorite. It is a limited edition that they came out with that sold out very quickly, and for good reason. It was the first GMT to sport an actual soda name that it was in collaboration with rather than getting a nickname. So that's the reason why. And it was also one of the first watches to feature the Miyota 9075, which is a flyer GMT. And it's affordable, really good looking, very well made. I just love Jack Mason. They are doing some really cool things for next year, and I'm excited about it. Another super odd watch in my collection, and again, originally when this was new, not affordable, but this is somewhat affordable. I paid $800 for it. It has an automatic auto quartz movement made by Eterna. That's up here through this sapphire crystal you could see, and then down here you tell the time. So right over here is where you tell the time. When you turn it on its side, it looks like a boomerang. It's made with hardened stainless steel. It's from the brand Ventura. They went out of business a while ago. Very interesting watch. This is the Spark MGS is what it was called, or what it is called. I've always wanted one. It is very futuristic, and again, I've said this in the past as well. I use MB&F as a reference a lot here because if MB&F ever decided to make a quartz watch, I think this is something that they would have come up with. I own a few cool Bulovas, but these are probably my coolest out of my collection. Both of them vintage. One vintage inspired, one actually vintage. This is a chronograph D that is a really nice size, just a really good looking watch, and it was refinished. They didn't do a great job on it, but it's a vintage chronograph that you can get for under $1,000. It is fantastic, and it gets a Valjoux 23. Really awesome watch, really very cool. And then of course, this is the Mill Ships from Bulova, a 1-for-1 reissue of the original Mill Ships, a watch that never was. It was meant to compete with the 50 Fathoms. Just really cool. And this is on a vintage strap from that era, so it looks even more vintage than it actually is. And again, this is somewhat affordable. This is the limited edition, so this is the Swiss-made version, but they made a non-Swiss-made version that is more affordable, so around $500, $600, somewhere around there, and then these are around $1,400 or $1,500. Toledano and Chen, I know a lot of people will not call this affordable either. I kind of agree with you because the secondary market, these are pretty crazy, but if you bought this new directly from Toledano and Chen, when I bought it, it was $4,000. 904L stainless steel, a design like basically no other watch on the market that exists today. It was definitely inspired heavily by some really cool watches, but it's a very interesting design that you don't see every day. And it's an automatic. It has a very basic automatic movement inside, but the bracelet is awesome. The case is awesome. Just a really good looking watch. This one gets the lapis dial. They've done a number of other dials since, but this is still my favorite. I recently made a video about this watch. This is a Farrer, I think this is called the Venture, I believe. I don't remember, but it's their three-hand. It's the third edition of their three-hand watch. It's essentially a sports watch because you're getting 100 meters of water resistance, a sapphire crystal that is boxed. It's just really good looking. The blue dial on here is a fume blue dial. You have solid blocks of lume on there. It is awesome. The lume is bright. You get pretty good water resistance. It's a great everyday watch. Plus you're getting a Le Jouperet movement inside, and these watches are around $1,300. Another super interesting watch, and another watch that sells for more than its retail price on the secondary market. This is Space One, the Terrarium. So they came out with a few versions of this, and for one reason or another, and I'm not entirely sure why, but they are no longer going to be making these watches. You get a dome sapphire crystal, a grade 5 titanium case, an aventurine dial. So they came out with a few different versions of this, a few different dials, a few different case colors, but they all have the Earth, the Sun, and the Moon, and they rotate. And you also have a day and the date. So this is not only a calendar watch, I think you get the month, the date, not the day, excuse me. So it's the month and the date. So a pretty complicated watch, lots going into this to get this little working Terrarium on the dial, and it's a grade 5 titanium. It looks like a spaceship. You guys know I love that. You can see from all the little details that I have on my desk. I love this sort of theme, and this is somewhat affordable for what you're getting. I think I paid around $3,000 for this watch, and like I said, they're going for more than that on the secondary market right now, for good reason. So I'm approaching the end of this collection. There are a lot of other watches that I could have included. I'm sort of cutting out some of those to get through the video a little bit faster. So here is my Eternas. I have two Eternas currently. These are GMTs, and both of them have the exact same movement, but they are wildly different. This is an integrated bracelet, the Royal Kontiki, and this is, I forget the name of this, I think it's the Evantec, and it's just a really good looking watch. One of the most detailed watches that I own, and it's very affordable. I paid $600 or $700 for this and $800 for this. It might have been vice versa, but this could be one of the best affordable watches that I own. And originally this was like a $6,000 or $7,000 watch. Both of these were, but they sell for next to nothing on the secondary market. I highly recommend Eterna because they make some pretty incredible watches. I think this was running and it stopped. That's only because I haven't wound these, so they are working perfectly. Really awesome watches. A watch that I don't wear very often, this is the Mad 1. This is the Mad 1 Red, a watch that came out and took the world by storm. Very affordable, or somewhat affordable. They have become less affordable over time, but when these first came out, they were under $3,000. This is the Mad Red. I now own an MB&F, so I don't wear this incredibly often, but it's still a very cool watch. A vintage watch. This is around a $500 chronograph from Heuer, or Tag Heuer. Actually, this is a Tag Heuer, not a Heuer, and it features a La Manna movement inside. So it's an automatic La Manna movement for around $500. You can get these between $500 and $1,000 depending on the condition. Very cool watches for very, very good prices. This is my Formex Reef. This is a 300-meter dive watch that gets a really interesting case. It also gets a really interesting bezel system. So the bezels are interchangeable, so you could just snap them off and put them on. And actually the bezel action's not that bad, considering it sounds pretty good and it always will line up. So That's really cool. And also it has really nice on-the-fly micro adjuster, really great bracelet. It's an odd design. They don't really have a straightforward dive watch. This is definitely not a straightforward dive watch, but it's as close as you can get to a straightforward dive watch. It's really well made. They make parts and components for much higher end brands. Formex, well, their parent company Dexel do. So these are really nice watches, really well made, that you can get for around $1,500 depending on the version. This is the 43mm dive watch. They make a smaller version than this. They make a bunch of other watches. They have raised their prices recently, so I don't know if this is still $1,500, but it is a great watch. So we're nearing the end here. This is Awake. This was a limited edition that they did that was inspired by Jurassic Park. They do this from time to time. I've noticed a few different movie inspirations, and there is a little claw mark. There's 2 little claw marks on the dial for this one. You get this really beautiful orange dial, salmon strap. So this is salmon skin in orange. You get a Le Joupre movement, beautifully finished case, but it's the lacquered dial that is the big deal here, because the dial gets a lot of details. It's a lot of steps to create this dial, and then all of the lume is underneath the indices, so it's lume from behind. Really cool watches. They do a great job, and they look a lot more expensive than they are. They aren't cheap. They're around $2,500, $2,800 depending on the version, but considering what you're getting here, again, I think they're definitely worth it. And last but not least, a watch that I just recently added to my collection. This is a gorgeous watch that is made in the United States, or it is mostly made in the United States. This gets a bloodstone dial, which is essentially a brown aventurine dial is what I would call it, but it also gets a sterling silver case. It gets beautiful applied indices, day and date, and a movement that is assembled here in the United States. I believe it is probably Salida based or something like that, but it is assembled here in the United States. The strap is made in the United States. It is a beautiful watch that is really well made, and it's sterling silver, so it's a little bit heavier. It has a little bit more of a luster to it. Very, very cool. Tell me what you guys think down in the comments below. There are more watches that I could add to this video, but I think it's getting way too long. So what I'll do is maybe make a 3rd installment. Maybe I won't, but we'll see. If I do, it'll be much shorter because there are just a few more watches that I would like to talk about. Tell me what you guys think down in the comments below of my affordable, and I am doing air quotes because I know some of these are not affordable and some of them are more affordable, but I know a lot of these are not considered affordable. Tell me what you think down in the comment section below. I want to hear from you guys. Please also don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It is super helpful for the channel, and I very much appreciate it. Anyway, guys, thank you for logging on. Thank you for watching this video. I will catch you guys in the next video.